As members of the Mail and Guardian newsroom, we as people who are constantly talking about these kinds of issues have decided to come today to just on record talk about that there are 13-year-olds protesting how their hair and identity is interpreted in white institutions. So guys, what's happening?
I am already having issues with how it is already being written, because we're still focusing a lot on the black hair instead of the racism. We're taking apart what black hair means, why black hair is kinky, why it shouldn't be straight, why black hair should be this and that. I have issues with people talking about my hair constantly, year in, year out, talking about my hair as if it's this Sarah Batman all over
Absolutely.
again. I have deep issues with that. I can't.
These girls are supposed to be writing their exams soon, within the next 2 weeks or something, and they can't focus on schoolwork because they're busy focusing on inconsequential things like, how does my hair look in order for me to be allowed into the exam room? And it's so sad that they're basically babies. These 13-year-olds are having to fight to just be allowed to write their exams on the basis of that their hair does not look decent, or it doesn't look, not even professional, it doesn't look neat. What is neat?
It doesn't look white.
Yeah, it doesn't look white.
Yeah.
Whose idea of neatness is this?
Exactly.
Because is it really the truth that like the hair does not look neat?
The thing about insidious racism is that it's never like in your face. So there is nowhere on that code of conduct that says no afros. There's nothing that would be shocking to a parent just glossing over it, looking at the school diary at the beginning of the year. The problem is that it is spoken from the view that assumes straight hair as the norm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the words like your hair must be in a ponytail, it must be neat, it must be there's a particular use of language that privileges hair that is straight.
These are young girls. And yes, it's important that they're doing this, which is it's really good, right? But I have a problem with people saying that like, oh, we're so proud of these young girls, we're grooming revolutionaries or whatever, which is great on a particular angle. But these are young girls. Can't we let our girls be girls?
Be girls, yeah.
Let the
in the
children
same
be
in the,
children.
yeah.
Our generation with children are supposed to be saying, actually, no, my child should not have to go through this. My child should be going to school and not having to worry about this. I think as the older generation should be standing up for these kids
and they should
way
be taking
before
up
they
that
have to take up this fight.
Yeah,
exactly.
they should.
There needs to be a responsibility that we take on as guardians, as parents, and we need to scrutinize this before putting children into a situation where they have to tell police and their school management to arrest them if they don't like something that's happening. Are we interrogating these very same problems that we had issues with, that we've had to unlearn in our adulthood before putting our children in the schools? Or do we think that transformation in these schools is going to come by osmosis?
When a little white girl would look at you and say, "Oh, God left you guys in the oven to burn because you that's why you're so dark, and God took us out on time because we're white." As an 11-year-old, you don't know how to respond to that. You don't have the words. There's that thing that black telepathy. You know inside, but something's wrong. But I don't know how to respond to it because I don't have the lexicon to talk to this thing, to these particular issues.
And sometimes it's not that you don't have the lexicon. I'm sure a lot of kids know. Yeah. And they understand and they have the words to express themselves, but because they're in these places and spaces that make them feel like, you know what, I should feel privileged to be here.
I've had so many incidences where my deputy principal called me out. We were sitting out at lunch and he's like, "Oh yeah, you need to black like me your hair." I mean, I have
and the irony of that black like me label,
right?
Name, right? Actually, what it was doing, which was straightening your hair.
Exactly. The irony completely is just like ridiculous. Yeah. And because of how coarse it was, I'd have to put on a doek in the morning, at night, whatever, like make sure that it goes down even after relaxing it. And so these like experiences that I'm reliving now are happening again even in corporate South Africa.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's like the waking up of a sleeping dragon. We haven't really spoken about this in these terms. What's been happening in the black community around the world is that straight-haired girls versus Afro girls versus weave girls, we've all been fighting each other, not realizing that the master that's playing the hand is the system of these institutions, which duplicate themselves not only in the schools, not only in the universities, but in corporates, in the streets, in restaurants, on the media, everywhere we go.
That old man who is actually in front of a camera saying to little girls I'm gonna arrest you. It shows how problematic the gathering of black bodies, particularly in this country, is, right? You see a group of guys in a corner, you're threatened. You see a group of girls taking a smoke break during work, you want to know what they're talking about. You see a group of girls in a mall walking in a shop looking at jewelry or at clothing. There's a shopkeeper who's going to follow them because they must be stealing and shoplifting
in
stuff.
In
South Africa.
Where's our country moving to? You know, because there is a decolonizing project that's going on, and we can see it. We're aware of it. How are we going to position ourselves to be able to respond to it in a responsible manner and not reckless?
What
you know what I mean?
We have a system. How do we dismantle that system?
Absolutely.
How do we dismantle that system? I think that is the greater question in all of this.
It shouldn't take Rastafari parents to produce a certificate proving that they're Rastafarian and therefore their children should have dreadlocks because it's a religious belief.
This is a result of the schools not changing to accommodate people, and the children rising up against having to assimilate to a point where they can't speak their own languages at the school. So the schools themselves need to recognize that there's a major problem, and they need to get together with parents, with different kinds of bodies, to say, what are we going to do about this? How are we going to address this so that people don't feel othered in these institutions 8 hours a day?
I don't think this conversation should be had just by us. I think, as you said, the governing bodies need to have this, the parents need to have this, but also white people at your braais, at your Sunday market, at Pablo Exgo bar when you're eating your breakfast. Y'all need to sit down and talk to one another and be like, yay, what are we doing actually? And then how are we trying to make this conversation or this situation better? Because it's always black people, prove that this is racist. Black people, fix it. The onus is not on us.